That was the president of the United States flipping off a Ford auto worker in a US factory, all while he pretends to be a champion of working class people. Trump tried to insult and humiliate that worker, but his union stepped in and got his job back. This is a story about how unions actually do protect workers' rights, and Donald Trump says fuck you to the working class. This all happened during a tour of a Ford plant in Dearborn, Michigan, where Donald Trump was heckled by union auto worker TJ Sabula. Sabula is admitted to shouting pedophile protector, and the video shows Trump responding by mouthing fuck you and flipping him off. This is not a rumor. This is not a left wing lie. You just watched the video of it. The president of the United States feeling so insecure that a union auto worker makes him lose his cool. Now, shortly after this moment, Sabula was suspended from his job at the Ford F-150 plant. And then when the press asked about it, the White House defended the actions of the president, saying they were appropriate. This is the 12-year-old presidency that is currently in charge of our entire country. Then something happened that completely changed the outcome. The United Auto Workers stepped in publicly, forcefully, and they said, we will protect this worker's job and his contractual rights at any cost. That is what working class power does. Unions show that when you band together, when you actually demand change from those even in high positions of power, even when you are defending yourselves from the president's insults and critiques, you can get people to get their livelihoods back. Sabula got his job back, and 2 GoFundMe campaigns raised over $800,000 in worker solidarity, just in case he wouldn't have got his job back. That is what true power looks like. The whole reason why Trump was at that plant in the first place was to sell the mythology that he is pro-working class. He's on the side of real Americans. He's there to show that he is appreciative of the people that actually make this country run. And that confrontation showed that he does not actually give a fuck about that. He's there for ego. He's there for what this does to his own personal brand. And as soon as somebody steps out of place, as soon as someone says something like, hey, man, you seem like a pedophile protector the way that you continue to redact all of these Epstein files, he says, fuck you. He can't even have a civil dialogue. Now, even after getting fired, Sabula said that he had no regrets, which is base as hell. He said what he had to say. He knew that he had his opportunity. He saw his window and he took it. Why is the president protecting pedophiles? We should really question that. And the United Auto Workers did not frame this as just an insult that was thrown back by the president. They said that this is an issue of free speech. This is an issue of power imbalance, and a reminder that without unions, workers stand alone. All of this comes as Trump continues to slow walk the Epstein release while lashing out at anybody who brings it up, which is why the hypocrisy is so telling. All of Trump's allies immediately rushed to defend him, including White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, who has repeatedly been calling protesters and workers disrespectful for advocating for their rights. Caroline Leavitt's made it really clear, just because the president flipped someone off and said, fuck you, doesn't mean he was inciting violence or doesn't mean that he was acting inappropriately, right? We're going to be consistent on that. We're never going to go back on what we said, right, Caroline Leavitt?
This vehicle, look at what it says. It says F ICE. You have these individuals who are putting their middle finger, proudly so, at the camera. Another ICE individual, a vehicle that was vandalized last night by these left-wing agitators. People don't do this without encouragement from people in power who make them feel like it's okay.
Right. So the flipping off is an incitement of violence, actually. It's a really bad thing, but only when protesters do it. You know, when the average civilian who doesn't have any prestige attached to their title, when they're not, the dedicated members who are leading the entire country, when they do it, it's inciting violence. But when it is the most powerful person on the face of the planet, it's banter. It's appropriate. It's defensible. It's presidential. So let's break down the pattern that the White House is continuing to say. Workers, when they protest, they're out of line. They're bad people. They're disrespectful. They're challenging power. But when Trump flips off a worker, that's totally appropriate. That's the president acting presidential. The double standard tells you everything that you need to know. In 2024, Trump did win a lot of working class voters, but he didn't do that because he promised policy that would actually cut their cost of living. He did that by weaponizing emotion. He talked about the shame that people experience from coastal elites, which is true. He talked about crumbling institutions that actually don't seek to protect people's quality of life, which is true. And he talked about the ever-inflating wage gap between those that are the wealthiest Americans versus those that are doing the hard work that actually keep this country running. All of that's true. That's genuine resentment. But you have to apply that resentment and anger towards actual policy solutions. You have to put more guardrails in place to make it so that wage stagnation does not continue to happen in this country. You have to make sure that the inequality gap closes and we actually tax those so people are paying their fair share that are making billions and billions off the backs of people who can't even afford to pay rent. You have to make sure that you cut people's costs of living by giving stimulus and stopping the price gouging that corporations continue to apply onto people. Those are genuine solutions that you can do. Not Donald Trump just saying, I'm the one who's going to fix it. I'm the one that they're going after because they actually want to go after you. And if they continue to hurt me, they continue to weaponize me, they continue to go after me with criminal investigations, they're only doing that because I'm standing in the way. And as soon as I'm gone, they're coming after you. That is the fear tactic that Trump did. He threw it at Democrats. He said that unions are coming after you. He said that immigrants are ruining your life. Anyone that he labels as an elite, it feels empowering to those when there is a strong man who can stop all of that. But it's a lie. It is a very poorly constructed lie. We need to talk about the outcomes. What is Donald Trump actually doing for working class people? Because if we look at what working class lives look like right now, they are far worse than they've ever been. 361,000 fewer jobs are held by workers without college degrees from January to September 2025. That is a terrible first year for Donald Trump, the supposed savior who's going to protect working class people. Manufacturing also lost 60,000 jobs after Trump's April 2025 Liberation Day tariffs. Trump's signature tariffs have raised costs for manufacturers, which have cut more jobs. They've accelerated those job losses, and they've passed higher prices directly onto consumers, some of the poorest people in this country who now have to pay even higher prices. Real wage growth fell 0.5 to 0.7 percentage points from non-college workers. Inflation continues to eat into pay, and the administration cherry-picks stats in order to hide it. Do you remember the October jobs report that suddenly went missing? Does that not raise any alarm bells to working class people that the Trump administration can't even post to you the actual job numbers? We've also seen cost of living continue to skyrocket. Electricity bills are up nearly 10% since January of 2025, and grocery and food prices are continuing to rise from the tariffs, with average household bills adding another $100 per month. But if Trump and his administration continue to hurt workers, who's there to actually save them? Is there anybody that's actually looking out for workers' best interests? This story really highlights that yes, unions are the ones that do that. When you band together as working class people with solidarity, and you show that regardless of what is thrown at you, whether that is violations in the workplace, whether that is improper firings like what happened to TJ Sabula, whether that is wage cuts or wage theft, unions are the ones that can actually hold people in high positions of power accountable. And Trump has not been shy about how he feels about unions. He has ended collective bargaining rights for over 1 million federal workers. He weakened the NLRB and the Department of Labor, and he installed judges that are hostile to minimum wage hikes and union protections. Trump attacks the only institutions that actually protect workers, and then shows up to the factories asking for pictures and asking for applause for being a working class hero. It's bullshit. Everybody needs to see through it. The official statement from the United Auto Workers said, the auto worker at the Dearborn truck plant is a proud member of a strong and fighting union, the UAW. He believes in freedom of speech, a principle we wholeheartedly embrace, and we stand with our membership in protecting their voice on the job. The UAW will ensure that our member receives the full protection of all negotiated contract language, safeguarding his job and his right as a union member. Workers should never be subjected to vulgar language or behavior by anyone, including the President of the United States. Can we give a round of applause for how powerful unions are? We can stand up to the President of the United States, arguably the most powerful man in the entire world. And the union can say, no, actually, we don't care if you try to bully our employees into submission. We will stand together with our fellow worker. We will ensure that he gets the full rights that are granted to him through our contract negotiations. You can't just fire someone on a whim because he's critical of the president or he says 2 words, pedophile protector. Trump flipping off a Ford worker wasn't a slip up. It was the truth breaking through his performance. He let the mask slip up. He's a billionaire who despises workers, protected by an administration that punishes any dissent or any criticism of the president, which then was exposed by a union that actually knows how to fight back for its fellow workers. TJ Sabula didn't win because Trump took back his statement or because he felt bad. He won because workers organized. That's the lesson here. It's not a middle finger. It's not the president saying whatever he wants and shooting from the hip. It is about the power that solidarity has, even against the most powerful in this country. Despite these rising grocery prices from the tariffs, at least the Trump administration does have some solutions. Let's hear the Secretary of Agriculture talk about, how Americans can fix this rising cost problem. Because apparently there's a really cost-effective way. Let's take a look.
I think the question you're asking, and it's a really important one, is while we're asking Americans to reconsider what they're eating, are we actually asking Americans, especially those who are living on the margins, are we asking them to spend more on their diet? And the answer to that is no. We've run over 1,000 simulations. It can cost around $3 a meal for a piece of chicken, a piece of broccoli, corn tortilla, and one other thing. And so there is a way to do this that actually will save the average American consumer money.
You've done the analysis on that, because that's one of the criticisms I heard from some, nutrition folks who said, like with the event you mentioned, all the protein, saying, all right, well, steak, obviously, it's expensive. So are you asking people to spend more money with these new dietary guidelines than in the past? You say no?
That's right. And the answer to that is absolutely no. Now, there are, as most things are coming down, there are a few outliers. Beef has been one of them, but ground beef is coming down. But here's the real.
Just a reminder for everyone on what the Secretary of Agriculture just said. This is the balanced meal that you can have. Piece of broccoli, piece of chicken, corn tortilla, and the other thing, maybe like a mint or something. Is that the other thing that she was referring to? What a slap in the face to working class families. This is one, you're out of touch with reality. It's crazy that you can have the resources of the federal government, get a specific budget that's designed for you to tackle these problems, and this is what you come up with. This is what you try to justify to the American people, to the working class. Don't actually believe what your eyes are telling you at the grocery store. You can survive on $3 for corn tortilla, chicken, piece of broccoli, other thing, mint. Thank you. I really appreciate the guidance that you're giving to struggling working class families who have to provide for their entire family. I think the most ridiculous part of this whole story is the idea that a billionaire could be an authentic voice for working class people. Donald Trump has never lived a working class life. He's never had to skip a meal. He's never had to worry about missing a shift for the harm of his family. He's never had to worry about rent. And this guy who's built a brand on not being like you is somehow going to be your biggest advocate. We're supposed to believe that Trump understands the pressure of working in a factory better than the people that actually do it. This is the side we're going to take, is the oligarchic rich president of the United States instead of the actual worker who's fired from his job for saying 2 words. Absolutely insane. Being working class is not this identity that you cosplay as because you put on a hard hat and you go to an auto worker factory. It is the difference between missing a paycheck and missing a vacation. A boss yelling at you and a board of directors saying, I don't like your idea, here's still your CEO salary. It's bullshit. Getting flipped off by a president and losing your livelihood because of it, that is what we're going to say is an adequate response. Trump doesn't resonate with the person that's on the line doing the actual work. He resonates with the person who has full control to fire them. That's why when a worker heckles him, he can't just laugh it off. He has to retaliate because he is used to being obeyed. The measly worker should do as Donald Trump says. And if you dare question that, if you heckle me, if you stop my train of thought, I will retaliate because you do not deserve my attention unless I am giving it to you. Only speak when spoken to, you crummy little worker. If Trump was an actual representative of working class people, he would not be attacking unions or stacking courts in opposition to labor. He would also not have to have executives stand next to him as he pretends to care about workers. The only reason TJ Sabula still has his job is because a union stood between him and a billionaire's ego. Any billionaire in the country can pretend to love workers, but the moment that a worker speaks out, the billionaire will remind you which side he's on.